Hi, my name is BC Hoffman.
And I'm Lalita.
And I'm Adrian Bustamante.
And you are watching Recipe Wars. Today we are doing our amazing stuffing. It's the holiday season. We're going to start up right for the holiday season. We've got 3 great chefs' recipes that we're actually recreating. I actually have Aaron Sanchez.
I have some chorizo here that's rendering, releasing some of its natural fat. All those flavors are coming together. It's important when you're working with chorizo, there's a lot of different varieties of chorizo. The one that I'm using for this recipe is a smoked, seasoned, cooked sausage.
I'm using a Mexican chorizo sausage. There are several different varieties of chorizo sausage. He uses a nice spicy Mexican one. He also garnishes his with a little cotija cheese at the end and cilantro. I love it. Love.
So my recipe is by Julia Child and Jacques Pepin.
Sew it together. You can put it in a sheet close to, I think, one of the easiest ways. I'm going to add that to the stuffing here. And we'll put the bread directly in a bowl.
My stuffing is going to be using Italian sausage or any kind of sausage that you may want to use, and using your basic aromatics of onion, celery, mushrooms, and I'm also using cornbread, which is going to give it that nice, gritty, kind of good texture.
And I am using Nigella Lawson's gingerbread stuffing recipe.
You know what? I think in the stuffing it would be really good to put gingerbread and don't bother with ordinary breadcrumbs. So that's what I do, and I try it out and it works, and then I'm happy.
Along with the gingerbread, we're also going to be working with bacon, apples, some onions, and some orange zest as well. So it's a combination of sweet and savory, a little twist to it. Should be fun. Let's see how it turns out.
With that being said, let's get this recipe war started. I'm going to start off by turning on my pan, getting this nice and hot, and then I'm going to take my 1 pound of chorizo sausage and throw it on the pan. Get a nice browning on it, a nice caramelization before I throw in my mirepoix.
And I'm going to do pretty similar to what BC is doing, except mine is going to be using Italian sausage. And my recipe actually involves the whole turkey shebang, using all the turkey parts, roasting the turkey and making gravy.
I'm going to be starting off actually sauteing my apples and my onions in some butter. So the one weird thing that BC and I kind of talked about off camera was Nigella actually sautés the apples and the onions first with the butter and breaks them down for about 10 to 15 minutes and then adds the raw bacon in after the fact. Now, what I would want to do, but I'm going to follow the recipe, is I would actually cook my bacon first without the butter. All that extra bacon fat is actually going to be used as flavor and also can replace the butter or any oil you would normally use in the future. So you can try it that way at home. I'm going to try and follow the recipe the best I can. First, I have to peel my apples and get them ready to saute.
And the chorizo sausage is going to give you the oil that you want on the bottom of your pan right there. And it's also going to give you just a great coating of flavor on the bottom of your pan as well. Now you can get this in stuffing already, like basically like in its casing, and you can squeeze it out, which we did here, or you can actually just get ground chorizo sausage.
Now, a way to actually core your apples up using an apple core, really simple. Just you can actually cut little, like 4 squares off almost. So you're gonna find your apple, place your fingers right here nice and safely. Go down the edge with your knife, boom, there's 1. Just a quick turn, there's 2, another turn, there's 3, and then there's 4. Take your core, throw it away, you got your apple pieces.
So as I'm searing my Italian sausage, I took the casing out as well. And all I want to do is kind of get a nice brown caramelization on it, but I don't want to cook it all the way through because it is going to bake a little bit longer in the oven. So as I'm searing my Italian sausage, I took the casing out as well. And all I want to do is kind of get a nice brown caramelization on it, but I don't want to cook it all the way through because it is going to bake a little bit longer in the oven.
So there's 2 views on how you should actually do your stuffing. One is the traditional way where you actually stuff your roast, whether that's your turkey or your meat or your fish or even another vegetable. The other way is actually taking it and baking it in the oven afterwards or finishing it in the oven. And that basically ensures that A, it's going to come out perfect every time, or almost every time as long as you don't use too much liquid and mush it. Or, for that matter, that it isn't a word about undercooking, because a lot of times you'll put it in your, in this case we would do it for turkey, and it would end up being undercooked, and actually the turkey would actually be raw in certain areas too because of that. You want to make sure it's fully cooked and there's no cross-contamination.
So I've browned my Italian sausage. I would normally leave it in the pan pan's a little bit small. I'm just going to remove my sausage and just leave that excess fat in my pan. And in the recipe it says to drain off this excess fat, but I kind of looked at it and saw that it doesn't really have a lot of fat in it or that much liquid, so I just want to make sure that mine is going to come out right and moist.
You know, speaking of stuffing, the one thing I found really interesting about like kind of the history of stuffing is it actually started, I think the 17th century was the first one it kind of popped into place in like a Roman cookbook. But the funny thing about the Roman cookbook that I found was they stuffed things like chicken and hens and
Stuff anything.
But one of the things they actually stuffed
Stuff it with another animal.
they actually stuffed a dormouse.
Wow.
That was actually part of the recipe as well, stuffing dormouse. So kind of a fun little thing. If you want to stuff a dormouse, I guess just find an old Roman cookbook.
What we're doing is really more of a dressing because it's going to be on the side. It's going to be an extra side dish for whatever meal you're making. Whereas stuffing is where you actually stuff the animal itself. So my chorizo is just about ready, and I'm going to add my mirepoix now. If you are going to use fresh bread, put it in the oven for about an hour at 275.
In my culture, I didn't really grow up eating a traditional stuffing with bread and carrots and onions and celery. So instead of bread, we actually use rice. Like glutinous rice, flavored with some soy sauce, kind of Asianized it a little bit. So, but I'm really excited to try this kind of stuffing because I never really get the opportunity to.
I think that's the fun thing about different cultures. I come from a Hispanic background, and my grandma still to this day makes stuffing, but it's a little different. You know, it has like a little bit of a Hispanic flair to it.
Like Sanchez's?
Yeah, it's not just. I mean, she doesn't use the chorizo like this, like Mr. Sanchez, but it's very good. It's just it's different. I think that's why I like this idea as a twist. And it's always fun to throw a little twist on something that you're used to having all the time.
Oh, definitely. So what I'm going to do, I'm on my next step, and I'm actually going to take my butter, and I'm just going to use this to literally butter up my casserole dish that is going to be going in the oven as soon as I am done with putting everything and tossing everything in the bowl. So then once you've buttered your casserole dish, you're going to grab your bowl, and you're literally just going to toss everything together. Throw our chorizo in that bowl, and then we're going to take our cornbread, crumble it up just slightly in your hand. You can use big chunks, you can use small cuts, or you can use crumbles. Now this is the key. When you're actually mixing everything together, first off, you don't want to overmix, and you never want to press down the stuffing because it is going to rise a little bit anyway when you're baking it. And when you're getting it moist with the stock or whatever you're using, in this case I'm using chicken stock, you're just going to pour enough in to get it moist. You don't want to put too much because then you're just going to have liquid mush.
I'm also ready to mix mine together. It's got 8 cups of cornbread to about 1 cup of chicken stock. I'm a little bit nervous of how moist it's going to be, but we'll see how it goes.
All right, my bacon seems to be all done, so I'm just gonna kind of get it into the bowl here. I said I wanted some of that extra bacon fat and that flavor from the oil. I don't necessarily know if I want to put it all in there, but I'm gonna get a good amount of it. So I'm just gonna kind of scoop it in. One thing you need to be careful of, and I'm sure you're aware of it, is a lot of the fat from the bacon is very hot coming out of the pan. So the last thing you want to do is immediately start throwing all your other ingredients in and stick your hand in, because you are a possibility of burning your hand there. So just take a minute, let it cool, and you should be nice with it.
Now again, I can't stress enough, you definitely want to basically just spoon as gently as possible when you're tossing this. And I'm just going to pop it down. Like I said, I don't want too much touching. You don't want to push it down, so I'm just going to scoot it over a little bit there.
So I'm ready to put my stuffing into my pan as well, and I just want to taste it to make sure it is well seasoned just before I bake it off.
That was a good idea.
It's perfect. I can taste all the herbs in there, and it's well seasoned with salt, and the cornbread is a little bit sweet. So I just want to kind of do that loosely patted down stuffing, just like what we did.
Yeah, mine's nice and cool now, so I'm gonna start adding my last bits of ingredients. So here comes my gingerbread first. Now, gingerbread you can either buy at the store or you can make it fresh at home and add it here. So what we've done to this is we've actually made some fresh gingerbread, cut it into cubes, and I'm adding it to my mixture. Now I'm gonna add this orange zest to it, a couple of eggs. Use a little bit of pepper here as well. And I'm gonna mix with my hands as well. Now, Nigella mixes with her hands, and I like to do it too, just to kind of breaks things down a little bit easier, and I feel like you get a nice mixture that way as well.
And again, your hand is the best tool that you can have in the kitchen.
All right, I'm gonna transfer everything into my baking dish now. I think I'm set, so I'm gonna pop mine in the oven as well.
I think we're all set.
Let's do it. Let's throw these bad boys in the oven. So we just finished cleaning up, and now we're gonna taste the wonderful stuffings that we have to see whose is the winner. So I finished Aaron Sanchez's with a little cotija cheese and some cilantro. But I think we should start off by going with the more traditional technique of stuffing. Let's go for Julia Child's and Jacques Pepin's.
Sausage and cornbread, a little chicken stock.
That sausage just really accentuates the dish, but you still get a nice kick from that cornbread.
It's sweet from the cornbread, and it's got all the spices from the sausage, so I think that was kind of the highlight of it. It's a little bit too dry for me.
I mean, when I think of stuffing, this is what I think of when I think of stuffing, like light and fluffy. To me, it's not that dry at all. It's actually like really texture-wise, it's perfect.
So I say let's go for Lawson's.
Lawson's?
Lawson's. Interesting.
Yeah, it is definitely
It's really moist.
By adding the bacon fat and breaking down the apples like a little bit more, I think really added to it.
I really do like it. It's almost got like a very like fruitcake style taste to it. It's got the sweetness that you get from the gingerbread and a little spice, but not really that much spice at all. It's more just sweet.
All right.
Aaron Sanchez, the one that looks almost like a loaf
Yeah, this
of,
one definitely does
of
like a
sloppy joes. Wow. Well,
I think it's really, really complex. I think
Very.
the Mexican chorizo just adds so much flavor to it.
The last thing I think about when I eat this is stuffing.
Yeah.
At least to me, like it's a very good dish and it's very complex and the flavors are there. But if you blindfolded me and gave me all three of these, that this would be the one I'd be like, this isn't stuffing, is it?
I love it, and you gotta remember, like you said, it doesn't remind you so much of stuffing, but stuffing is so many different variations. You can have it with rice, quinoa, beans, it really doesn't matter.
And don't get me wrong, by saying that it doesn't remind me of stuffing doesn't mean that I don't like it. It's definitely 100%. Like I could put this on front of somebody and it would be a great dish on its own. So.
But I don't know if I could eat like a whole lot of this because it has so much flavor.
What I really do love is, I mean, this one just takes it back to more of a traditional way. As Aaron Sanchez says, it's the Mexican version and twist on a great classic stuffing. And I love it. I mean, just the garnishes and everything, and it's just sexy. So, which one do you think is number one, guys, in this recipe board?
I'm gonna go with Lalita, just because it's got that nice fluffiness to it that I really like. Still a lot of good flavor from the sausage and the spices. I'm going that route.
I'm not a fan of yours,
What?
Nigella. A little bit too sweet for my taste. I do like yours, actually. It's a really unique spin on stuffing that I would never expect to be stuffing, but it tastes really good.
I normally would go with Julia Child and Jacques Pepin, normally. But because of the fact that I've never experienced a stuffing like this, and I really just love the complexity. The flavors go great together. Like you said, it is a dish in itself almost, and since we are going stuffing on its own, not in the bird itself, I really would have to go with Aaron Sanchez's. So, that being said, number one, Aaron Sanchez.
Aaron Sanchez.
I'm the winner! Number two is going with Julia Child and Jacques Pepin. And three, and not bad, just a little too sweet for what we were going for with the stuffing, was Nigella Lawson's gingerbread apple stuffing right there. And that being said, you have just witnessed Recipe Wars. Aaron Sanchez is the winner. My name is BC Hoffman.
My name is Lalita.
And I'm Adrian Bustamante.
And this has been Recipe Wars. Please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and we will see you next time.